Wawel Hill is a Jurassic limestone formed about 150 million years ago and is nearly 228 meters above sea level. At the bank of the Vistula River, it was the perfect safe haven for people of the time. As far back as the 7th century AD, Slavs have inhabited the hill, and ultimately it became a place of the utmost regal importance. This is a place where kings were christened. It's one of the most prestigious monuments in the entire country, and today we will see it all. Wawel Hill was initially comprised of more buildings, such as the 2 Gothic churches that once stood here back from the 1400s. Unfortunately, in the 1800s, when Austrians occupied the area, they needed a space to do their military routines and elected to demolish the 2 structures. Now, all that remains are suggestive foundations. Although Wawel dominates the skyline of Krakow and seems massive, the main area opened to visitors can be experienced within a matter of a few hours. After passing by the famous dragon, up the hill and through the beautiful arcaded courtyard, the staterooms will be your first point of interest. As guests would approach the throne room, they would go through a progression of 2 waiting spaces. But waiting spaces in castles are not like we understand it when we go to a city hall or to settle some formalities as common people. The purpose of these rooms was to impress.
So, tournament room, this is the room which was used as the waiting room. It was only for those people who were invited by the King of Poland. The name of tournament room, it is after the fresco, which is original from 1500s and was painted by Hans Dürer, brother of very famous German painter. The Review Military Hall, it was the second waiting room. In the fresco, there is the King of Poland, the king who founded this castle, Sigismund I, sitting on the throne, and around is going his army.
When guests would finally reach the throne room, they'd be overwhelmed not only by the presence of the king, but by this imposing tapestry that surrounds. In fact, this is one of the most impressive collections of tapestry in the entire world.
The most important room in the castle, the throne room. This was the main audience hall in the castle and was the place of the throne, but the throne hasn't survived to today. And at the moment on the walls there is the part of collection of the King Sigismund August, the story about Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel.
One of the more unusual aspects of this throne room is the collection of heads that look down upon both the king and the visitors.
And there is the legend connected with one of the head. The legend says that when the King Sigismund August wanted to sentence to death an innocent woman, the female head started to speak, and she said to the king in Latin, Rex Auguste Judice Juste, meaning King August, be just in your judgments. and the king ordered to bound her a month to prevent from speaking again.
The bird room is quite beautiful. Although the ceiling is a replication, some believe that it stays true to its original form. There's also a private chapel of the king and two very interesting paintings. One, a portrait, was gifted to Wawel by the Metropolitan of New York, believe it or not. And the second painting, although rather disturbing, depicts a human being created of alchemy. It was the time's vision of artificial intelligence. This is the senator's room. It was the premium social space of the castle. Elite guests would be hosted for balls, dancing, and mingling. The orchestra would play above in the gallery. It's a little bit unusual on account of its darkness on the inside, lacking windows with this tapestry surrounding it. Very much the vibe of Wawel Castle. The museum on this hill also has a rich armory collection featuring cannons that weigh up to 2 tons. Another smaller cannon from the 17th century was discovered in the Vistula River in 1884. Imagine it, this was already an antique when it was discovered way back then. In 1410, Teutonic banners were captured at the Battle of Grunwald and returned to the cathedral here on Wawel. They were in presentation there until time took them. They deteriorated simply. But one historian, Jan Długosz, managed to quite accurately document them. And thanks to his work today, we have beautiful replications that can really give you the feeling of the originals. These items were captured during the battle for Vienna, and when Poles returned with their newly found goods, locals were inspired by their designs, so much so that local copies were actually produced. The space of the former treasury also has some unbelievable items in its collection, valuables that have defined Polish history. In examining some of the remains of the former crown treasury, we come across a particularly special item, a coronation sword that was used from the 1400s in the coronation of all Polish kings. It was pretty surreal to see the sword used to reign in all Polish kings with my own eyes and in person. If those from the past could look forward, they would probably be shocked that ordinary people can get within mere inches of an object that once yielded such symbolic authority. But that wasn't the end of this collection. A moment ago, we took a look at a coronation sword that was used in the coronation of all Polish kings. But there is one potential exception to that rule. Nicholas I, coronated in Warsaw in 1829. Many people feel this was illegitimate as it was done in a Russian-occupied territory using that sword, not with the legitimate coronation sword. To this day, the majority of Poles do not consider him a king, nor do they consider the coronation to be effective. All day I have walked around Wawel with this feeling that I am at the foundation of the country, truly the heart and soul of Poland. It is when I came across the church behind me, which is the oldest building in the entire country, that I feel some confirmation for that notion. And I also think that it's the reason you need to spend some time at Wawel when you visit Krakow. It will thoroughly help you understand Poland on a completely different level. For that reason, I invite you here with your family to enjoy. And until then, I'm Ryan Socash for Poland In.